What's going on, guys? Today we're in our second episode, and we're going to be talking about poverty. I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Cade.
I'm Adam.
I'm Lucas.
And today we have a special guest.
What's up, guys? I'm Ethan.
All right. Who wants to start off with poverty today? Lucas?
Yeah, I'd like to start off. I feel like before we even get into the topic, we should know what poverty means. So I'm going to give you a brief definition of what poverty means. Poverty means not having enough money to meet basic needs like food, shelter, and clothing.
All right. That's a good way to start off. So, I mean, in our communities, we see a lot of people living in these conditions where they can't afford.
I think homelessness is very prominent in this area.
You think so, Steph?
Yeah. I think, you look around, obviously there's some neighborhoods that are more affluent than others, but even by Wilson, you can definitely see some homeless people. And I think there's a problem going on right now.
Definitely a problem.
Even just going to school, I'll see people just laying in the park. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Jeremiah. I see that a lot. These people can't afford basic necessities, which keeps them in poverty and at a disadvantage.
Yeah, they can't get no deodorant or soap, so they always stink.
So also going on a new topic, I think the ongoing economic impact of COVID-19 has also hurt the situation and leading to more unemployment and greater demand for social services.
Yeah, I would agree because a lot of people were losing their jobs during COVID because of what was going on and a lot of other problems with people's health and their well-being. So it really had a large impact on poverty and homelessness and things of that nature.
I think it had a really big impact on just the price of living.
Yeah.
A lot of people that are economically struggling, a good option for them sometimes is fast food, maybe because they're working 2 jobs and whatnot. And even fast food nowadays, I go into like Chick-fil-A or McDonald's and I'm dropping $20. You can't, $10 ain't gonna get you anywhere anymore. It'll get you a side of fries and a drink.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a good example of just the expensive price of living nowadays.
Yeah, and I agree. Back to Jeremiah, what Jeremiah was saying about COVID, how it was taking out a lot of jobs. It was taking out a lot of businesses too, and a lot of businesses were shutting down. They were going out of business, and a lot of things were shut down. So.
Yeah, and with a lot of business going out, the prices are rising because there's less competition to keep the best product and the best prices on the market. So the big companies that didn't go out of business could up their prices because they didn't have smaller businesses taking out their market with smaller prices maybe, or a better product.
Another stat is 52% of workers were being laid off during COVID-19.
Yeah, I think not just from the standpoint of looking at a loss of a job, think about how that might affect someone's family.
Yeah, this definitely could affect families because some jobs aren't paying high enough wages for these expensive areas in LA and not giving enough benefits in life.
Yeah. No, and like I was talking about, not just, fast food I think is something that's going on around the country, like the price of that. But I think living somewhere like LA, just the cost of living compared to somewhere else, maybe like the middle of America, it's crazy here. It's crazy, the price of everything.
Yeah. Just because I think this is where everything is, being made. It's like the city, so.
So I was going to talk about fast food. Another thing I just wanted to say is you feel me? The price did go up, and they're giving you less food. I go to Chipotle and I'm getting half scoop for some beans and rice. This is just crazy.
I mean, yeah, definitely, but I think it has to do a lot with the new laws about the minimum wage for fast food workers.
It's like $20 now.
It's 20, so they had to raise the pay for their workers. So now what they have to do is charge more for the food, and they have to ration the food a little more so they can balance out the pay for their workers.
I mean, these places don't care about their customers no more. It's just about what can make them the most money.
And I feel like the reason why they have to pay their fast food customers more is because
workers.
It's getting expensive in California, especially. So you can't just have like a bunch of fast food restaurants serving minimum wage, because over time, prices are gonna keep going up. Things are gonna keep going up. Something's gonna have to change.
Yeah, and the workers themselves, they have to be able to,
that's
afford
what I'm
some
saying.
expenses.
Yeah.
So
I had to mad dog a Chipotle worker the other day. Like Jerry was saying, she gave me about 3 pieces of chicken in my bowl.
yeah, I would be upset.
I would
I would
bet
be
on
real
the odds.
upset.
I looked her dead in the eyes. I said, "Are you being serious or are we joking?"
So yeah, there's
Right.
definitely it's definitely affecting other facets of life because of the high prices that we see going on in our community.
I think another thing we should talk about is some of the causes of poverty.
Okay.
There's obviously tweakers that, they fall into an addiction and that
Yeah.
consumes their life. But I think, another thing that people don't think, a lot of veterans are homeless,
That's
know?
true. Yeah.
And I think that's definitely something we got to fix.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there fighting for our country and then they come back to their home and they don't have a home.
Yeah,
you
you need
know?
to get
Yeah.
more like government benefits in there, because like when
Yeah.
they're old like that and they've went through a war, like what can they really do if they could barely walk up and make a meal for themselves?
Yeah, and a lot of them have like PTSD and other like traumatic experiences that may make it more difficult for them.
And so, another cause, I feel like for poverty, people living in poverty often can't afford healthcare, so they are more likely to have healthcare issues because they can't pay for doctors or healthy food.
Yeah, I think going into healthcare, some ways to like help everybody get healthcare is just ensuring that all individuals have access and affordable, because it's different for everybody and some is more expensive than others.
Yeah, healthcare is definitely really expensive here in America. Like, even just to call like an ambulance or anything like that, any type of hospital bills, if you don't have insurance to cover for it, which a lot of people may not have insurance or be able to afford good insurance, it's gonna be real expensive for them to get these services that they need for their well-being and to stay healthy. So people living in poverty are going to struggle more because they can't get the proper care that they need, or if they do get that care, they're going to be in a lot of debt and they're going to have to spend a lot of money.
People don't think about it, but a big privilege we have is having healthcare. We assume that it's kind of something that everyone has, but that's not the case. And if you don't, even if you do have healthcare, a lot of the time, if you get injured and you have to go to the hospital, it's expensive. Mm-hmm. And then now imagine that having no insurance and going to the hospital, the bill's going to be some crazy price, and then
they're gonna scam you on the
and
price
assuming
too.
you don't have healthcare, you probably are economically struggling to begin with, and then you're gonna be swimming in debt.
Just even more money that they have to pay, just like stacking more bills for the poor people to make them more poor.
Yeah.
Another thing to help like prevent the issue poverty is giving everybody the same access to education. If you go in some neighborhoods they get better quality and access, like more teachers, better teachers, and better education to help them like along the road and like get better paying jobs and all that.
Yeah, I would agree definitely that like in areas where it's low income, because of the way that our system works and that's how the taxes pay for the schools and the resources, that that schools in lower income neighborhoods are going to be underfunded, and the kids at that school are not going to have the same type of benefits and the resources that students in a wealthy neighborhood are going to have because of the way that the system works.
Yeah, and that contributes to the theme of poverty, because it's like a repeating kind of thing. It's not often that you see. Some people like to say making it out of the hood. And I think as well, people, with wealthier people have a lot more opportunities. I myself have grown up with a lot of opportunities, things aiding me in my success academically. And I think it was always, academics were always of importance to me, to set me up for my future, and I kind of knew that. And people, a lot of times, kids that grow up in poverty, they're worried about a lot more. There's a lot more to worry about, and they have their own struggles, so they can't always focus on their education.
Yeah.
And education is the first stepping stone into, having a successful career and whatnot.
Yeah, a lot of times people go into poverty, there's a lot of single parent households, so a lot of the times they have to help take care of the house or their other siblings, or even like get a part. A lot of kids have to get a job at a young age to help afford the rent and other expenses, so kids may not have as much time to focus on studies, and the schools also aren't as nice, and a lot of other kids are in the same way, so the whole system is just built against like kids in these areas getting a proper education.
And that kind of brings us into the topic of like mindset, because you could really say, some people could really say it's really your mindset, and none of that is really like a setback if you believe it is. Because if you don't have access to certain things, but wait, hold on.
No, I think no, you're on the right track.
you're on the
I think
right track.
I think there's obviously some setbacks for people, but I think you can always overcome your environment that you're in. I think that's where
It
you're going with that.
it just makes it harder.
Yeah. There's some people. It's like picture a race, right?
Yeah.
Some people, more wealthier people are presented with more opportunities. Picture them being, closer to the finish line and getting a head start.
Exactly.
And then, people in poverty, imagine them, having to start with their shoes tied together,
I mean, yeah, that definitely makes sense. But with that, like, just because you start off, a little farther back in the race, as you're saying, Step, or, with a disadvantage in the race, doesn't mean that you can't finish first. Because in the tortoise and the hare, the hare has all the speed and everything, but the tortoise still wins because they had a better strategy and a better path to success in the race.
Exactly.
So it's not always just about who has the upper hand going into it and during it. It's all about what you do with your position and how you help yourself get to a better spot.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they are in that position, they make like excuses for themselves. They don't really like want to.
Can't be lazy. You got to stay hungry.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
Like they just think their situation is the reason why they're going. Like they make their situation the reason why they're going to stay like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think both people make excuses. Both sides of the spectrum. People that maybe are struggling, they kind of make excuses and lose hope and whatnot, and just say I was make it like you said, have excuses and use that to as a defense mechanism. And then as well on the other side, there's some people that they have these advantages. Maybe they come from a wealthy family, so they don't think they have to take stuff like school serious.
Yeah.
Maybe never really have a job, and then they, end up becoming, what's that saying? It's like rich grandfather, something about that poor son. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
If you have like a
poor grandson.
Yeah. If you treat your kids
if you spoil your kids, you're gonna have to raise your grandkids. But if you raise your kids, you can spoil your grandkids.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's also just like taking advantage, like kids, that grow up with the
Taking
opportunities.
advantage of kids.
No, pause. No, Diddy. Hey, look, I didn't mean it like that, but I meant so kids that grow up with the proper resources and all the everything set on the table for them to be successful, still may take advantage of it and go mess around and not stay focused and handle what they need to handle and get done what they need to get done, and they can still end up in a way worse spot than someone who started off with everything stacked against them, all the odds, and they still they were dedicated and set on their goals, and they made it and did what they wanted to do with life.
Yeah.
Yeah, just showing that they were strong enough to persevere, even being starting behind and having odds against them, being in last place. It didn't matter.
Hey, just because you start in last doesn't mean you have to finish in last too, right, Sant?
Yeah, like Usain Bolt. He hurt his leg and he still ran for first place after pulling his hamstring.
Sure. So just basically to sum up what we're all talking about, the main ways to address poverty in the area, I would say, includes governmental and nonprofit programs focusing on housing, education, job training, and health services.
Yeah.
And despite these efforts, many residents still struggle with homelessness and lack of basic necessities. So if we could, address all this, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like it starts from the bottom up. A lot of it has to do with the system. It's trying to keep the poor and the rich richer, and keep that, as we see most people, what they're born into. That's the class they end up being in their adult lives. But obviously, if you're dedicated and you're determined and you work hard, then there's a really good chance that you could ascend in our society and
Persevere and make it
You gotta
Yeah.
work hard, not
end up
hardly
doing
work.
great. Yep.
Yeah. So
End up doing
that's
great.
the end of our podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the
sir.
next episode.
All right.
Gracias.